What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Today, I wanted to show you how to quantize drums in Logic. It's a super simple process that just takes a few steps of preparation to make sure everything goes over smoothly. So, the first thing we're going to want to do is group our drums into a group so that when we quantize one track, we quantize them all. You don't want to just quantize either just kick or just snare, what have you, because if you do that, you nudge over the snare a little bit to the grid on the snare track, but not on the other tracks. Your overhead's also picking up snare, your toms are also picking up snare, and it'll give this like flammy effect that you don't want because the snare drum is not synced in with itself across all the tracks. So to do that, we'll go to our mix window. We'll select all of our drum tracks. I'm doing that by clicking on the first drum track, holding shift, and clicking on the last drum track. Then we'll go to this group drop-down menu here and create a new group. I'll label it drums. Then I want to select editing and quantize lock. And what that will do is exactly what I was just saying. That'll make it so that when you quantize one, you quantize all. Then you want to deselect all this stuff here. To have volume selected, it means that if you were to change one thing in the group, it'll change all things in the group. You don't really want that when you're editing drums because you want the ability to change up whatever you want to change up within the drum tracks. So once you have editing and quantize lock selected, then you will click out of that, go back to your region window, and you're ready to quantize. So you can select what you want to be quantized here and go to this flex edit button. And for you, when you click on this flex edit button, it'll look a little bit different. I already have started editing and quantizing drums, so mine just kind of switched over to the flex edit, but yours will analyze the track. And what that is doing, it's Logic going through your WAV files and deciding what is a hit and what is not a hit, and making a transient there so that you can click and edit those transients and move drums where you want them to be so that it can be perfectly in time or wherever you want them to go. So once Logic has analyzed your region, then you're ready to quantize. For me, I have my presets already set. So it's as simple as me just clicking what I want to be quantized and pressing Q on the keyboard, and it'll all snap to the grid. But until you kind of have that figured out, you have a few options here. The first is how you want Logic to edit your region. I always have mine on slicing. Slicing basically means that when you click and make an edit, the computer is literally cutting as if you were cutting your region like this, is cutting where the transient is and moving that transient over. A lot of people use slicing. I've heard of some people using the rhythmic setting on here. The problem with that is the rhythmic setting stretches your file. So when it moves your kick drum over a little bit, it pulls the wave from the previous kick drum. You can see how like this is the hit of this kick and snare here, and it dies down. If you have it on rhythmic, you can compress it or pull it depending on which direction you go to. It's a little confusing, but basically, if you're just a beginner, stick with slicing. I use rhythmic for things like bass or guitar, but for drums, I definitely always use slicing. And then the other thing that you can do is choose what subdivisions you want your quantization to be. So when you select what you want to be quantized, you can go up to this inspector tab here. It'll bring up your information for this track. Then you can go to quantize here at the top. That's under region. So if your thing's hidden like this, you can just bring this region drop-down menu. Quantize at the top. And then you can select how you want it to be quantized. Now, this is more of like a 4 on the floor beat for this song that I'm working on here. So I'm going to pick something like eighth notes. If you are doing something that has more of an intricate beat or has an intricate fill in it, you might want to do a little bit more subdivision, like a 32nd note or 16th note, so that it really picks up everything. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. I will click on 8th notes here, but this fill in this region right here, starts off with 16th notes. It picked up the 8th notes, the downbeat and the and, but it did not pick up the E or the So I would have to go in and manually drag those over to be perfectly quantized. Now, not everything has to be perfect. If you go through and you listen to it and it sounds fine, it sounds fine. Don't get carried away with, oh, this has to be snapped to the grid. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And a lot of times I will leave things as they are just because it sounds fine. Whatever sounds good sounds good. Always remember that. I will leave you with one tip that I kind of do when I'm quantizing, and that is cutting my drum tracks into regions based on like how they need to be quantized. So this region here, if you can see, I cut down where this transient marker is right here, or the playhead, I should say. This region here is all straight 16th and 8th notes, 4 on the floor type, straight up beat. This here is a triplet fill leading into that. So I cut the region there, and I can quantize this region to 8th notes, and then I come over here and I can quantize it to a triplet or a swing feel and play around with it so that the computer can get a closer read to make it more locked in with the grid. But just keep in mind, no matter what you do, you are going to have to go in and press play and zoom in as much as you can without it going too much, and you're going to have to listen and really manually edit whatever you need to manually edit. A lot of times the computer will add transients that aren't supposed to be there, or not pick up transients that are supposed to be there, because it's not a perfect flawless system, and especially when it's impossible to be a perfect flawless drummer. So no matter who's recording, you're going to have to go in and manually edit the entire thing, and sometimes that is annoying, but you're just going to have to double check the computer's work. So last thing here, all of these different colors, the gray means that it's a little bit edited. It's a little bit out of where it originally was. White means that it is even more so edited and more so out of where the original transient was. If you have the colors here like this, if you pressed quantize and all the colors stayed this, that would mean that it's perfect. That means that these 3 kick drums that this drummer played were perfectly in time, and the computer didn't have to do anything to edit them. But then you can see here this gray area, I had to move it a little bit, and then he fell way off over here, and they had to edit it some more. So I hope I covered everything. It's a lot to take in. This is one of my longer videos. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for further topics, leave those in the comments as well. Now get back to recording, get to quantizing, and have a great day.